Hello, beings of the internet. My name is Ash, a Florida-based flora and fauna artist and crafter, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I just got home like 3 days ago from Seattle, Washington, from Sakura Con, or Sakura Con as some people have been calling it, and it kind of gave me some inspiration to finally start my first vlog, which I've been kind of wanting to do for a while anyways. So where do I start? Where do I begin? I have been getting into quite a few more conventions this year than what I am used to, which was my plan. I was like really hoping to get more into the convention scene, so I'm so excited about that. I've been going to conventions for years now, like at least, I don't know, 12 years, something like that, off the top of my head. Now I am a vendor, I'm an artist, and now I'm kind of just trying to find a new way to like move forward and keep things like fresh for me, especially since, like I said, I'm moving into doing more conventions versus local at-home markets, which I still want to do, but I am a little bit more picky of the in-person events that I do. I just want to like start vlogging my experiences at some of these events, and as well as doing some behind the scenes like studio prep and things like that. I have been on and off YouTube as well the past, like, I don't know, same amount of time, longer than that. I think my first original channel was at least 15 years old, at least something like that, and I started with making AMVs, anime music videos. I've kind of like moved away from all that. I tried TikTok for a little while with my business and I just didn't really vibe with it. And yeah, I did Twitch for a little bit and now I am here. This is the new thing that I want to try, and I really actually think I'm going to enjoy vlogging. I'm a huge yapper, if you couldn't tell. So with that being said, I'm going to move on a little bit. I was at Sakura Con this past weekend. Like I said, a lot of people have been calling it Sakura Con for a reason. And that is only a piece of kind of how this weekend went for a lot of people, from what I understand. I would like to kind of talk about my experience because this is my first time ever on the West Coast. I've never done a West Coast convention, let alone visited the West Coast before. So this was like a very big trip. I was really looking forward to it, and it was a huge investment. That being said, I did still have a good time where I was able to, outside of being like extremely exhausted and just absolutely like run out of energy. Like I was just dead to the world, I think. I want to talk about the convention and kind of like my thoughts and experiences on that as a vendor, and a little bit of what I heard from the attendee side. While I cannot like really confirm how it was to be an attendee, I did hear a lot of things, specifically about like really long registration lines and the lack of ADA information until right before the convention, which was still kind of minimal. Getting into that, my experience as a vendor, I actually found load-in to be kind of smooth and a breath of fresh air a little bit, because the shows that I do in Florida, the load-in process is a little finicky. Sometimes people don't really, it seems like nobody really knows what's going on sometimes, and you're kind of given like misinformation sometimes, or you know like kind of minimal information. I've been to some events in Florida where you'd be lucky to even find staff for the convention at load-in. Like you just pull up and the loading door is open and you just go set up. You know where your table spot is, they sent you the map. I have done an event like that before and it was a little nerve-wracking. So it was kind of nice to pull like right up to the loading dock, and there was staff there from the convention center and they knew what was going on. There was vendor check-in, they told you exactly how things go, how the parking situation worked, and they made you sign in and you had to sign out. I don't know, I just felt like that process was very streamlined and it was very easy for us to load in. I was really worried about load-in, and that was the least problematic thing of the whole weekend. So, load-in, cool. Friday, which is, I guess, where things kind of started getting rocky for the weekend. Friday in the artist alley felt a little slow, and I know a lot of us were like kind of wondering why through the day. And then we heard that the registration lines were backed up for about 2 to 4 hours at any given point of the day. There was people finally getting out of the registration line at like 4 o'clock. They had gotten there at like noon, from what I heard. And so that left them pretty much no time to go see much of the artist alley or the exhibitor hall. They kind of had to make a choice, you know, and they had 2 hours. So that, I guess, is to be expected. If everybody was backed up in line on Friday, that the hall would be a little slow on Friday. And that did kind of discourage me a little bit because I think we pretty much just made table costs back. I'll put my expenses up. Why not? Here's my expenses for the weekend. Take a look. Another issue that attendees had with registration was the badges they received, or the memberships. They do call them memberships at Sakura Con. Theirs were kind of just made of paper, printed paper, and I know that some people were having issues with their legal names being printed on the badge, even though they had preferred names picked out to be printed on the badges. I have no idea how this situation was handled because it was not relevant to me as an artist. But I do understand why that is problematic. And on top of it, I keep calling them badges, but the attendee memberships were not really much of a keepsake. They were paper badges and just a black lanyard. And I could see by Friday evening, people's badges were becoming bent and creased. They could possibly tear easily, you know? And it would be no wonder if people were losing their badges because those are so easy to lose. And the artists were not the same. We had these like plastic badges, nice hard plastic keepsake badge. And this is what I'm used to, especially if you are getting a weekend membership or badge or whatever you call it. You know, you want it to be keepsake, right? And so even conventions where I see that they have wristbands, they're like a more kind of sturdy permanent wristband. So even when you cut it off, you could keep it and put it somewhere, like hang it on your badge display at home or put it in a scrapbook and it won't tear easily. I thought that was kind of interesting that they did do the hard badges for pretty much anybody that was like artist, vendor, staff, things like that. And then the regular attendee memberships were paper. Also, a shout out to my ribbon trading. I would have liked to trade more ribbons, but you know what? We're happy with that. And like I said, they had only given us black lanyards, but I brought my own lanyard from home. It's so cute, with my little gator friend. So everybody knew I was from the swamps. I know that standing that long in line for badges is not exactly ideal. Hopefully they'll have more printers on scene next year. That being said, we're past day one now, okay? People got their badges. People are eager to get into the convention and experience their Saturday and get into Artist Alley and main events and all of the stuff that's going on in the Arch Building. Let's see, how early did this start? My friend and I, we wanted to be at the convention probably about like 9 o'clock. Something like that, and I think we had gotten there about like 9:20. As we were walking over from our hotel, which was only like 2 blocks away, you pretty much just walk like right under the Sky Bridge from the way that we would come, and then cross the street and go inside of the Arch Building. And as we were coming in about 9:10, 9:15, something like that, we just saw this big cloud, just like a giant cloud. It was white smoke when it was coming out, and then we saw it like turn to that ashy like gray smoke, and it was just funneling out of the parking garage. Unfortunately, I did not take any video of this weekend because I kind of had the motivation to finally kickstart this vlog when I got home. And so I kind of just took a few photos throughout the weekend, treating it like a normal convention weekend. But crazy amounts of smoke coming out of this parking garage. And my friend and I kind of just thought that maybe a car was on fire. We did not even think about the fact that that was Cheesecake Factory down there, and that Artist Alley was right above that. Just did not click in our brains whatsoever for a moment. And we just went right on up, took a couple photos. We're like, wow, that's crazy. What a way to start a Saturday morning. Car fire, that's crazy. We were barely just getting open for the day when they made the announcement to evacuate Artist Alley, which was about, I don't know, 20 minutes before opening. I can't really remember for sure. The weekend was like such a blur, but we did evacuate before we even got a chance to open for the day, which is probably for the better. Let's be realistic. It is for the better, because if they had to evacuate that Artist Alley with all those people in there, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine chaos. Like, if we had peak hours going on Saturday and the Artist Alley was flooded with people, and then they had to do an emergency exit for us. I don't know. I don't want to imagine that. With it being a fire, there is so many things that like could have went wrong. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Artist Alley literally could have set on fire. You know what I mean? That didn't happen. So I'm trying to stay positive about certain things like that. That being said, they evacuated us, and this is kind of where more problematicness started happening. We didn't really have a lot of communication, and I do understand that the convention staff was only able to realistically relay whatever the fire marshal told them, but they could have handled things better. It really felt like they didn't have an emergency protocol in place, which can be dangerous when you're running an event of that scale. You know, like I said, what if there was thousands of people in that hall when they had to evacuate us instead of just a couple hundred artists? You know, that could have been a very scary situation. And then on top of it, you don't have a lot of communication for people to say, hey, you know, this is what's happening. The fire is in the ventilation system. That's why we need you guys out of here, you know. And they did tell artists that the room was full of smoke, and that's why we had to wait. We had to wait for the fire marshal to clear it, but they were not relaying any information to attendees whatsoever. And that, you know, kind of caused a lot of attendees to go into the exhibitor hall and kind of assume that maybe Artist Alley would not be opening back up. And even we weren't sure if Artist Alley was going to open back up. And if they had just said something like, hey guys, the room is filled with smoke, the fire marshal says we cannot go in there until they can assess the smoke damage or smoke level, you know, just stay tuned, and we are hoping to open Artist Alley back at the end of the day. You know, then I think a lot of more people would have been more comfortable with that, but they were constantly telling artists that there was no information available. And then they had some, I want to say, misinformed either volunteers or staff, I don't know, probably volunteers, that were telling attendees it's going to open in an hour. It's going to open in an hour. And then they would let lines of people form, and people are thinking that they're waiting for Artist Alley to open in an hour, but it's not opening in an hour. Everybody upstairs, you know, has no idea what's going on. We don't know when we're opening. We are not opening in an hour, you know, and I feel like that happened for quite a few hours, like 2 or 3 at least hours straight. I kept hearing, oh, somebody's telling people in an hour. Somebody's telling people in an hour we're going to open. But then the staff, the Artist Alley staff that is upstairs, is saying there is no information, we have no access, we do not know when we're getting in, kind of a thing. So that was quite a predicament. From what I understand, they did allow artists that had medical equipment or, you know, medicine or anything at their tables that was left, that they were allowed to go in essentially really quick and try to retrieve those items and leave. So I heard that one person had gone in there early-ish in the evacuation and they said that the floor to ceiling was filled with smoke. That's what I heard down the grapevine. So that was a scary picture, especially because when we were evacuating the artist alley, you could see the smoke coming in through the vents, just starting to trickle in through the vents. So I could definitely imagine that the room eventually filled with smoke, like totally. When you exited the artist alley and crossed the sky bridge, the whole sky was like, it was so foggy and cloudy, just all at eye level and below from smoke, and it was pretty dense. So I would say a suffocating amount. Like it would not have been safe to stay in there if the room was literally filling with that much smoke. So I understand the need for a very long, unnerving evacuation. You have to make sure that all of that is cleaned out. And when we were finally allowed back in, I could see that they had the loading docks open, like they were trying to get smoke out as quickly as possible. It just took that long. What I heard about how the fire started, apparently it was reported that the fire, it was an electrical fire that started in the Cheesecake Factory kitchen. So it started in the kitchen and it spread into the ventilation system. And that's why the smoke was so bad in the vents and coming into Artist Alley. So that's crazy. That's a big fire. They had 33 emergency response team, units on scene, fire trucks, ambulance, police officers, 33 units in total, and they had blocked off all streets, corners around the Cheesecake Factory. They were rerouting all of the traffic. It was quite a scene. I didn't get to take the best photos because I never went downstairs. I never went outside. My anxiety was on super high. I'm in a place that I wasn't really familiar with, and so there wasn't anywhere that I felt comfortable enough to go, I guess, in the state of mind that I was in. I don't know. I just hung out up there on the other side of the Sky Bridge, just waiting with whoever else did as well. Also, if you were there for my public crash out in that little room across the Sky Bridge, thank you for keeping me and my friend company and trading ribbons, stickers, and things, and just kind of joking around with us because I just don't know how to handle stress sometimes. So that was a fun day. Yeah, the fire was really stressful, and they did let us back in about 2:30 so that way we could assess damage. That's when the fire marshal finally went in there. They were going floor by floor to make sure that nothing could happen potentially again through the weekend. Since it was an electrical fire and it was all one building, they had to do their sweep and make sure everything was good to go. So 2:30 we were in for damage assessment and setup, and then they let the crowd in at 3. So that was about 5 hours of our day kind of taken by this Cheesecake Factory fire. And they did have staff go around and ask everybody, would you be okay with staying open until 8 or 9 p.m. tonight and opening at 9 a.m. tomorrow on Sunday? And of course I was like, yes, I will be here. And that's what happened. They stayed open until 9 p.m. on Saturday, and then we opened early at 9 a.m. on Sunday. And they did offer free signs, I guess. They started making signs on the fly for artists saying oh, sorry, we're closed. So that way, if you couldn't stay late or you couldn't be there at 9 a.m. for opening, you at least had a sign on your booth that said that you were closed. So cool, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what those signs look like. I did not take one. I don't know. I feel like when the Artist Alley opened back up, it was kind of busy for a little bit, and outside of normal vending hours, it did slow down a little bit. I'm really not sure the extended hours actually made up for that prime sales time that we did lose, because 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, the biggest day after all of your attendees have been hungry to get in, that was a massive hit in my opinion. And I know that other artists kind of feel the same way about that, but that's probably just the risk that we take sometimes. I am grateful personally that none of my stuff was damaged. I don't know if anybody else did experience excessive smoke damage, particularly artists that were very close to the front by those vents. I personally was all the way in the back, which might have helped equate to my bit of an underwhelming weekend, which is fine, because if I didn't get smoke damage because I was all the way in the back, I guess I'll take that. I did have a lot of apparel, shirts, hats, flower crowns, terrariums, things made with fabric flowers, unbagged paper goods, and things that absolutely could have taken on quite a bit of damage that I wouldn't have been able to fix. I can't exactly throw a flower crown in the washing machine, so I was very, very nervous about that, and I'm very, very grateful that I did not experience any damage. So I hope that other artists did not receive excessive smoke damage either from that situation. And I did smell quite a bit of Febreze after we had officially opened for the day, so people were definitely trying to get that smoke smell to go away because it was lingering a little bit. Now, as far as comps are concerned, there is no information currently on if they are going to comp any amount of money from our artist table. So there's no talks of refunds, there's no talks of a guaranteed spot next year or anything like that. Nothing like that. They did give us 4 out of 5 of our lost hours extended to kind of make up. Did it make up the sales? I don't know. Some people said they experienced average of what they usually do. For me, I have nothing to compare it to because I have not been to Sakura Con before, so I can't say if I lost sales or not from this personally. So I'm just grateful that I did make my expenses back for the weekend, but not much more profit than that. Could be placement, could be the fire, could be me. I don't know. Maybe my stuff's not fit for Seattle. Now, breaking even wasn't exactly a small feat, but I would have liked to make a little bit more money, of course. That's kind of how Sakura Con Day 2 went. Now, as far as Day 3 was concerned, it's Easter Sunday. It was kind of slow. The first hour that we opened early was kind of slow. I don't think it would have made a big difference overall if we just opened at 10 o'clock, to be honest. And from what I understand, there were some artists that kind of needed to pack up early to catch flights, and they were told absolutely not. You cannot pack up early whatsoever. Even after this kind of long and mentally strenuous weekend, I feel like it should have been validated that some artists could pack up 30 minutes early, in my opinion. But that's just me. It's not like it was early in the day on Sunday. It was the last hour of the day. Let them catch their flights. I don't know. I don't know why that was a big deal. I don't know. I always stay until the end personally. My flight was for Monday, the next day. So we kind of just leisurely packed up and made our way out after closing. Now, as far as things that went well, like I said, the load-in was pretty smooth. I was very happy with that. I actually found it somewhat easy to get around, which I was kind of nervous about. Because specifically when I was in Atlanta for Furry Week in Atlanta, the hotels can get a little confusing over there, so I would get lost easily. But I did not have that issue here. I did not get that lost so quick. Now, like I said, I never went to the Summit building, but they did have signs on the street that would point you into the direction of whichever building you're trying to go to. So that's awesome. I feel like Florida conventions really lack in signage. So, cool. Signs. Yes. And the control booth. Oh, I liked the control booth in Artist Alley. So they would constantly make announcements. If people lost things, their wallet, their badge, membership, their friends, their family, you could go, and then the people on the PA system, they were kind of a vibe. So that was fun. The control booth was awesome. Informative when they could be. Nice. I like the control booth. Things the convention could improve on. Communication. Communication is so big. You have a very large event and you need to communicate with your attendees and your vendors and your artists. A little bit more communication than just we have no information. When you do have a little bit more information, in my opinion, is necessary, and in addition to communication, emergency response preparedness training. I don't know if this convention really has plans for what to do in case of an emergency, and I really do hope that this situation has kind of opened their eyes a little bit and shown that they need to incorporate ways of communicating better with the people that are waiting for information, as well as having a game plan for what comes after. Okay, because these are very important conversations that really shouldn't be happening in the middle of an emergency. You got to know what you're going to do with your artists. You have to know how you're going to compensate them. You can't, I don't know, something with that just didn't really sit right with me, where the convention never came out and said, hey guys, we know this is a scary situation, but we do have plans enacted for emergency situations just like this. If we close for the weekend, your booths will be compensated and refunded. If we do not close for the weekend, the plans are to extend the hours. I do feel like these are things that can be worked out with the convention center ahead of time. And it's things that should be taken under consideration when you have a convention in a building with other businesses in it. Yes, you cannot plan for the Cheesecake Factory to set on fire, but you can plan for what you're going to do if the restaurant that's below your convention does set on fire, which happens at restaurants. And I could rant pretty hard about this part, because this is the part that scares me the most. What would have happened if they had to evacuate a couple thousand people, few thousand people, several thousand people out of Artist Alley? What even is the fire limit for that room? I'm not sure, but imagine if that room was close to capacity and we had to evacuate everybody. Is your staff trained to handle that intense pressure from the crowd? And on top of it, do you know what you're going to do with everybody? Do you know where you're sending them? Do you know where you're guiding them? And it is important, I think, as well, for artists and, people like me to make sure we have insurance on our products, on our goods when we're traveling, if we can, because if a situation like this happened again and the convention has no plans, then we're the ones that are kind of out on that. I don't know, I'm yapping a lot. My throat is getting really dry. I did record this video once, but I kind of realized that there was a lot of things that I didn't talk about that probably should be talked about. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about it or have started talking about it coming up, but I think it's really important in light of this fire, the pipe bursting at Katsucon, the fire at Sakura Con. You just never know what can happen, and it is very important that I think these conventions that are getting larger and seeing, more of an uptick in the situation where fire marshal is, this invested in the convention because of the attendee volume, you should absolutely have plans in place for emergency situations and how you are going to handle this, and have, things in place with the convention center ahead of time too, and ask those hard questions. How are you going to help and handle this situation in case of an emergency, in case something sets on fire, in case a pipe bursts, in case a toilet floods, and you know what I mean? There's just so many things that could go wrong and are going wrong. So I am looking, hopefully, for more conventions to have better emergency preparedness in the future and really take the safety of their artists and attendees under consideration. I feel like this fire wasn't the worst case scenario, and we're very lucky for that, and it could have been. Katsucon, there was artists that lost a lot, devastating amounts of stuff because of that pipe burst. So I'm just yapping. This is a really important subject, I guess, to me, a really sensitive subject to me, especially being in conventions more lately. So I just really want to see a change in this, because it is scary how unsafe some conventions are becoming just due to the sheer volume of attendees, and now that underlying fact that anything can happen. Now, getting past all of that, Sakura Con's over. I am 4 days ago. Sakura Con ended 4 days ago. I have been home for 3 days. I have been resting and recovering because that trip was like the biggest mental and physical strain that I have taken in a while. And I needed the preparation because I'm getting ready for Furry Week in Atlanta in 2 weeks. And right after Furry Week in Atlanta, I go straight up to Michigan to Motor City Comic Con. So if you stay tuned, those will be my first 2 real convention vlogs. I don't know how big Furry Week in Atlanta will be as a vlog because I'm only in Artist Alley for 1 day on Saturday. But I will try to vlog as much as possible. And I do really love that convention. It's a lot of fun. So I'm just like excited to go in general. The weekend after Furry Week in Atlanta, I will be in Michigan for Motor City Comic Con. It's my friend's birthday, so I'm just gonna be chilling with her and vending for the weekend and hopefully just having a good time. And then the weekend right after that is MomoCon. I am currently on the wait list for MomoCon, but I will be kind of coming back through Atlanta anyways on my way back from Michigan. So my plan is to stop for a couple days, see if I get off the wait list last minute, if they open up any waitlist tables last minute. And if that happens, then I will hopefully snag one and be at MomoCon. So that's my May plans currently. I'm hoping to maybe do a little studio vlog right in between now and FWA because I have a few flower crowns to make, a couple of game console terrariums to finish, and I have to like repack and make sure I have enough like stickers, I guess, for the next few weeks. So outside of May events, I will also be at MetroCon in July, and then I will be going to DC in August for Otakon, which I'm so excited about. And August is my birthday month, so I'm really gonna see this as like a vacation. Like I want Otakon to be like a true vacation for me this year, even if I am working in the Artist Alley. But if you are in the DC area, or you will be at Otakon, please come say hi. I would love to meet people, and I will have badge ribbons with me, so if you want to trade some badge ribbons, come say hi. I'm so excited for Otakon. And then I am also on the wait list for Anime Festival Orlando, which I believe is in June. So we'll see if I get off the wait list for that. Other than that, you might be able to find me at Goblin Market, and that's like a current local market that I really, really love. It happens pretty much every single month, and I will be applying for that again in June. So I hope to be at their June event because I really love Goblin Market. So other than that, that is my convention schedule for the rest of the summertime for the most part. And then my website currently is closed right now after getting home from Sakura Con. I'm trying to figure out how I want to handle my online site because of my May shows coming up. So that means I would have to allocate inventory just for my website and for potentially 3 conventions. So I'm probably going to leave my website closed through the month of May and really start planning on opening it back up with a drop of everything I have left in June. Especially since June is going to be a slower month for events. I would really like to get like a proper website drop done for June. So stick around for that if you're not going to be at any of the events coming up. Hopefully I can actually be on time with that because I'm kind of bad at time management. So my whole goal, partially for vlogging as well, is to help keep me a little bit more like motivated and responsible. So hopefully I can actually keep making art and releasing things at a reasonable time, keeping my website updated, and making sure that people can stay in the know of where I'm going to be and what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm like really, really excited for this year, and I know like the beginning of the year kind of had a rocky start here, and especially with Sakura Con, but I can't say that I'm too mad. My sales, like personally, my business has been doing better year over year so far, so I can't be too mad with that. It definitely is a bit slower than I expected it to be, but of course the economy is kind of crazy right now, and it's just to be expected. So my goal is to really just kind of hang out and survive right now. My business is my full-time job. I am a stay-at-home mom, and I run this business full-time, and my husband goes out and busts his ass every single day for us. So I am so grateful, for him. And he's the main reason why I can even do what I'm doing right now. So I'm just doing my best to make sure that I can kind of stick around for the long haul. I really do enjoy this and like creating art and coming out and like meeting a bunch of people, and it's honestly been such a kind of revigorating thing in my life. Yeah, I don't know. If you want more like vlogs like this, stick around. I'm hoping that my next vlogs will be a little bit more involved. If you liked my video today, if you found it informative, if you found me not as boring as I think that I am, then like, subscribe, stick around. I don't know. I would love to have you, and I am very excited for doing more vlogs in the future. I'm actually really excited for this because I've been wanting to do it for a while. So yeah, thank you for coming around and watching the video. There was somebody that came around and they passed this out on Sunday to everybody. It says, "I survived the cheesecake factory fire at Sakura Con 2025. So funny, oh my gosh. Also, one more little bit that I guess I forgot to like address. I don't know if people care about these kinds of opinions or not, but would I do Sakura Con again? I think so. I would really like to go to Seattle and like just kind of experience the city this time. There's some things that I missed out on I wanted to do. So yes, I would go back.